Thanks, Tom. Good afternoon. As Tom just said, I'm going to talk a little bit about grizzly bear population ecology in Denali National Park. This project was started in 1991, but thanks to some previous work that Lane Adams had been doing here on a different project, we can actually say that what I'm going to talk about today is analyzing data that goes back to 1988 because Lane actually collared a couple of bears back then. The reproductive rate of female grizzly bears and survival rates of bears in 4 age classes in the park were determined by observing radio-collared bears for that time period from 1988 to 2005. Population trend was determined by contrasting the survival rates and reproductive rates. Because the study was originally targeted at determining the impact of grizzly bears on caribou calves, the study area encompasses what we usually call the heart of the caribou calving area. For those of you familiar with the park, this is Wonder Lake. The red line here is the park road, and this is basically the bear study area, which is very similar to the area that Lane has been doing a lot of his work. This is typically what the area would look like in May when we're out there doing some of our field work. The study area encompasses the foothills on the north side of the Alaska Range, right up against the mountains and the adjacent lowlands. The bears are darted by helicopter, usually in May of each year, to either attach or change radio collars. And since the current objectives of the study are to look at cub productivity and survival, right now we're only radio collaring female bears. The bears are fitted with radio collars that are typical conventional VHF technology. We're not using GPS radio collars on these bears because it is a cub productivity and survival study. We need to be out there to determine the number of cubs that are produced and how well they survive. So we're using conventional VHF telemetry. While we've got the bears immobilized, we also collect things like hair samples, blood samples, and we take a premolar tooth from all the new bears that we catch in order to determine age. And also every bear that we catch is weighed and assessed for a general body condition. Bears are subsequently located after they're radio collared by using a fixed-wing aircraft, and an attempt is made on every location to record the number of cubs that heel. In other words, the number of cubs that are with each female that we've got radio collared. These observations are typically made from the time of den emergence, which is usually sometime in early May, sometimes as early as late April, and through the summer until den entrance, which typically all the bears around here are in their dens by the end of October. Depending on the weather conditions, some of them might go in a little bit earlier, but we can pretty much count that we're going to have all those bears tucked away in their dens by the end of October. The frequency of locations has been anywhere from about once a week to once or twice a month over the course of the study. We documented the birth of 154 cubs in 76 litters. The mean litter size was determined to be about 2.02 cubs. 61% of the litters were litters of 2. 3 cub litters were more common than single cub litters. And one of the interesting things that came out of the analysis that we just did recently was that the litter size increased with female age but declined after about 20. And this graph shows that. If you look at this, what we did is we categorized the females into these 5 different age classes and looked at the litter size over the course of the life of these bears. And you can see here that the litter sizes increase up here until we get to this 16 to 20 year age class, and from there the litter sizes go down. The large confidence intervals over here in the oldest age class is because we had a really small sample size there. We let's go. Okay, the age of first reproduction we calculated from the bears that we had marked and came up with 6.7 years and a range from 5 to 9 years for the age that a female would have her first litter. The oldest known female to have cubs was 28 years old, and the female reproductive rate we estimated using these the parameters here to be 0.3477. So what happened here is, if, as I said a minute ago, we had an age of first reproduction at 6.7 because of the small sample size for that age of first reproduction we used for the modeling an age of 6. We also used a litter-sex ratio of 50-50, and the maximum age that we had for a bear in this study was 35, and the reproductive rate comes out to 0.34. We did survival on these different age classes, and we broke it down into these 4. Cubs or bears in their first year of life, yearlings, bears in their second year of life, sub-adults or bears that are independent bears up to the age of 5, and then adult bears were all of the bears that were 6 years and older. Survival rates for 2 and 3-year-olds could not be calculated, since if they were independent of their mom or not with their mom when we radiolocated her, we could not determine whether they had dispersed or died, so we weren't able to do survival for the 2 and 3-year-old age class. Okay. Fate of cub litters was documented in all but 3 cases. We had 3 cases where females either dropped their collars prematurely, or in one case the collar was actually removed. 66% of the cub deaths for those first year cubs occurred prior to July 1. And this will show you what we had for litter loss, partial litter loss of about 16%. Whole litter loss was by far the norm in Denali. More than half of cub litters, when they were lost, rather than part or no litter loss, we had whole loss in those. Okay. So the survival rate was calculated for 148 cubs. That was minus the 6 that we could not account for in those 3 litters that I mentioned previously. And the estimate that we got for survival was 0.35. Taking into account the confidence intervals, this means somewhere between 57% and 72% of all the cubs do not survive. We also looked at survival in these other age classes. With the adult females, 11 out of the 39 that we were able to radio track died. Subadult females, 3 out of 20, and yearlings, 20 out of 54. In all of the age classes, the deaths were due to natural causes. No bears were removed by harvest or for management purposes, by harvest, legal or illegal. The mean survival rate for adult females in Denali was estimated as 0.9572, so females were doing pretty good. Relatively fewer subadult females were monitored, but the estimated survival rate for subadult females is 0.93, and yearling survival was estimated at just about 0.6. With all of these parameters, we were able to estimate a population trend, or lambda. The lambda estimate we came up with was 0.9963, and within the 95% confidence intervals, what we were able to determine from that number is that we either have a population that's declining at an annual rate of 3.8% or possibly even growing at a maximum annual rate of 2.7%. This just shows the the lambda estimate and the upper and lower confidence intervals for lambda. After running 5,000 bootstrap estimates for lambda on these bears, we were able to produce this graph that shows that about 40% of all of the replicates suggest that we've got a growing population. About 60% of all the estimates, the lambda estimates, suggest that the population is actually declining within the park. And just the note there on the bottom that a lambda estimate of 1 denotes a stable population. Anything below 1 indicates a population in decline. Anything above 1 indicates a population that's increasing. So it looks like we're on the downswing just a little bit. So in conclusion, cub survival in Denali is similar to other non-hunted populations in North America. Sterling Miller reported a number of years ago on some cub survivals for different areas, including Katmai and Yellowstone National Park. What we have here is real similar to what is being seen in other places where grizzly bears are not hunted. The low cub survival rates in non-hunted areas are believed to indicate a density-dependent population, or density-dependent population regulation where populations are near carrying capacity. So our population is probably doing okay out there. We're probably at capacity. We're not likely providing bears to move outside of the park. And I guess the bottom line of this is the estimation of the population trend suggests that the population of grizzly bears is probably generally stable or possibly in a slight decline.